Hey everybody, I am Greg Soul and welcome to Why Am I? A podcast where I find interesting people and trace the path that brought them to where they are today. My guests for this episode, or should I say guests, are Hannan and Nemo, my favorite career artists. I found them at their very first art festival and have had their art hanging in my house ever since. I think it's been 10, 11 years in about 5 different houses, so they're still with me. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this well-traveled conversation with Hannan and Nemo. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Why Am I podcast today. I have our special guests are Hannan and Nemo, or Nemo and Hannan. Who do I put first?
We usually say Hannan and Nemo.
Any particular reason why?
Well, that's our brand. So
Website.
Yeah, everything is Hannan and Nemo. Hannan and Nemo for our Instagram handle. I think Facebook, and our website is hannanandnemo.com. So
Hannan and
it's
Nemo.
Hannan and Nemo.
All right, and so I used to start out by giving a little intro on who you guys are and all that stuff, but I think it means more if it comes from you. So I'm curious if you guys are standing in line at Starbucks. I don't know if you go to Starbucks, but you're standing in line somewhere. You start up a conversation with a stranger. I was going to say neighbor, but it's just stranger. Somebody standing next to you. And in the conversation, the guy says, "Hey, I'm a garbage man." And then it's your turn to reciprocate. How do you guys identify yourselves?
I would say professional artist. Is that what you would say?
No,
Okay.
I don't. No, I don't. I wouldn't.
What would you say?
But only because, like, if you say you're an artist, you know, you get a bunch of follow-up questions that I don't really want to answer.
Okay.
But I'm thinking in the Starbucks, you know, I say, no, I'm a bum. You got any change or whatever?
As you can tell, we're very different. Very different people. But okay. So let's just say maybe it was more of
All right. Well, okay, I'm an artist.
You would say you were an artist.
What kind of art do you make? I don't know.
It's hard to
It's hard to explain.
Mhm.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, it is because because if you tell somebody I make art out of aluminum cans, I make mosaics, like
What do
they don't
picture in
get,
their
they
head?
don't, you know, they can't even come close to what we
Maybe
do.
you're not good at describing it.
But yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I can make it though.
But yes, that's a good point. Like if you, when someone says, "What do you do?" and I say, "Well, I'm an artist." Oh, really? What kind of art do you make? Then the answer is usually, "I make mosaics." And they say, "Wow, with stone or glass?"
Yeah.
No, not. It's with aluminum cans. Well, how do you do that? Well, what we do is we cut up the cans, we flatten them out, we use a hole puncher, we punch out discs from the cans, then we punch another hole in that disc to thread a nail through and mount it to a piece of plywood. And we don't nail it all the way down, we leave a little gap so that air can move the disc. And then I think they might understand what it is, but really what helps us to see what it looks like.
Yeah, which is why I carry one with me all the time.
You carry some art with you all the time?
So I just say,
Pull
I
it
make
out of your
these,
pocket.
and I pull them out. There you go.
Show them a photo on my phone. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would work.
What?
Yeah, that's essentially the answer to that question
Is
right
that-
now.
Yeah. And can you pay for my coffee?
Starving artist? Is that what you go with?
There it is.
No, I mean, I have talked to some artists before. And this one guy said that, whenever he talks to other artists, he says, I make a living, doing my art. And he said that he talks to different people and they all have a different reaction. But when he talks to artists, they say, you make a living, right? Like that's the part that sticks out to him. That's you guys, this is what you do, right? You're artists and you're eating off your art. And I think that's somewhat rare in the art world.
Want to lemon meringue pies?
Bunch of lemon
As many free coffees.
But yeah, we are. So we're, instead of starving artists, we're surviving artists, I guess, because
Thriving.
Well, thriving a lot of the times, but mostly surviving. I mean, it's not an easy career, it's not an easy profession to choose.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Well, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Maybe, yeah.
It's interesting you said it's not a it's not an easy profession to choose. Do you really feel like you chose it? Like you put kind of like this plan together and said, hey, this is what I want to do? Or do you think it kind of found you?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I think we
both.
Because
Yeah.
I think we had an idea and we went, full steam towards it, and didn't know how we were going to get there, or what we were doing, or what was going to go on, or
but would you? I think
anything. But
like in the nature of the question, though, like, do you think that you were compelled to like I have to make art? Like that's the person I am? Because I kind of feel that way.
Well, yeah, but being compelled to make art versus making art as a living are two different things.
Yeah, it's true.
Because like when you say I want to go into the studio and I want to have fun and see, when I do that, I like to paint, and I like to throw paint around, and I can't sell that. But when you want to make a living doing art, you kind of hone in on what people might want to spend money on. if you want to get that money, you have to make something that they want to trade money for. But so I feel like that you kind of have to have a plan.
Yeah,
kind of.
You do, because it becomes a business.
Then it has
the hobby is now a business, and if you're gonna take it serious, you gotta.
Yeah, and then you have to have a body of work that says who you are, and you can't just like, oh, today I want to make a cardboard sculpture of whatever, and then tomorrow, oh, I want to try to whittle something. Like that's not gonna work.
Yeah.
You got to be like focused. So I think we did that on purpose.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you said this always happens to me. You'll say one thing and I'll have 10 questions based off that. What that you were saying is that if you had your choice, like when you want to just go and feel creative, you go and you put paint on a canvas or paint on something, but then you mentioned that but maybe that's not what people want to buy. So do you feel like you have to kind of compromise there and what you want to do versus the art that people want to see? Like, and how do you kind of reconcile that?
Yeah, I think it is a compromise, and it's difficult because you don't want to become what we would call like a sellout, for example. Like you don't want to just say, well, I think people are going to love, paintings of jackrabbits or something. And so I'm just going to make paintings of jackrabbits, even though I have no feelings about jackrabbits. Maybe I hate them. I don't know, but it would be sort of unfulfilling, I think. So we definitely have to find where what we love and enjoy and are compelled to make, where it intersects with what the people that we can communicate with are interested in owning, I guess. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's like an intersection.
Yeah, but if you did make a jackrabbit with some blue bonnets in there, it would sell.
Oh, probably.
Oh man.
In Texas.
Yeah, in Texas. In like a water tower or a windmill.
Yeah.
But that's not us.
That's interesting. So so you kind of have to pick something that people want and put some energy into it. But I mean, I guess you're still bringing yourself in that, right? And you make it you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, still trying to be original and create something that's a little different, new, fresh.
Yes, and I think that thinking back on like how we got to where we are now, we're making mostly abstract artwork, right? We used to make representational artwork, and I think a lot of times when we were doing that, we were in that kind of experimentation stage with how we wanted to be super creative artistically and try as many subjects as possible to find out what we enjoyed the most. And we were like, it's like we had too many ideas, right? And one day we were talking about it and I said, when we make the representational stuff, like it's beautiful, it's cool, it's impressive, I like it, but I don't really feel like it's what I would make to hang on my own wall. And then I realized at that moment that what I would make to hang on my own wall would be something more abstract.
Yeah.
And then we said, all right, well, let's do it. Let's see what happens. So then we started making things that were sort of like what's behind us here, which was just a kind of a tapestry of color. And it didn't have anything definitively like representational about it. And to me, that was a tipping point, because once we started making that, our sales went up. So apparently it's like when we started putting more of like who we are into the artwork, instead of trying to figure out what they wanted, our sales improved. And I don't know if it was a coincidence or if it's just because it was more apparent to the person receiving the art, or our audience just looking at the art, that maybe it was more in touch with who we are as people.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it moves.
Yeah.
Yes. It always moves, yeah.
It actually has like a pretty awesome sound too. I like that kind of a little tinkle sound.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what's interesting to me about like, so I'm going to jump around in time a little bit. I found you guys a million years ago. It seems like I have no concept of time anymore, especially over this last year. Everything's out of whack. When I say last year, I mean 2019 for some reason. I skip a whole year. But when I found you guys, you were still doing a lot of drawings. So I guess that was more your representational stuff, where you did like these amazing little circle drawings. You know, everything was based on circles. And we actually got you guys to commission a couple of hummingbirds, and we still have them. That's like the only piece of art that has followed us everywhere we've ever moved, and we migrate a lot.
Yeah, she was telling me about it.
The pencil bones,
with the pencil.
Because you guys told us about that, and that
Yeah.
I think, to be honest with you, whenever you told me that story about the pencil bones, that's what sold me, and I was like, I need some of those. So I had to have you draw me a picture so that I could get some.
Yes, when you reached out to us, and I said, "Do you remember Greg? He bought the hummingbirds, and he asked for the pencil bone, and he remembered because, of course, the pencil bones were like." And to explain to people listening, Nemo used to draw pencil on paper, usually animals, little cute animal drawings, and he would use up pencils because he drew a lot, and I mean he's putting a lot of lead on paper, so he would use up pencils very quickly. And so we had a collection.
One every 3 days.
One every 3 days. That's right. We had a collection of pencils that just were maybe an inch long. Just you'd use them until you couldn't hold them anymore. You know.
No, I had a holder or
a pencil extender.
Yeah.
So we ended up with the pencil bone, and I guess we were telling you about that, and you said, "Hey, can I have the pencil bone for the drawings that I'm ordering from you when you're done?" So of course we did.
Wait, or did we have a piece that had a bunch of them, like hanging on the wall, or was that come later?
Yeah, you guys just told me about it.
We made some art.
Okay.
Yeah, we made some art with.
Because eventually we would paint like a little board, and then we would stick them, and they would look like little. Like a
cityscape.
Like a little cityscape
of pencils. But I think that something about you enjoying, I don't know how to explain this, but having a pencil is this, writing instrument. No. A lot of people have pencils in a jar on their desk
for years,
and they just sort of sit there, and people don't use them up very quickly. But Nemo just found so much joy in using up the pencil and saying, like, this is what this is for.
Like it didn't even matter what art was coming out or what, if anything was even coming out. It just, could I use the pencil up? It's
like you were like, it was irresistible to use the thing. So I think that has transferred into all the you now, which is to have like a pile of aluminum cans, and Nemo literally will use up the entire can, either first of all punching for our art, and then whatever pieces are too small to punch with the big punch, we punch with a small punch, so we use up that even more. And then every little scrap he folds up into a little wad, and then we put it in a bag, and that is our recycle pile. So all of that ends up getting recycled. So like nothing.
Which one day I would like to figure out how I can melt those down and do some kind of pottery with it.
Yeah, make something else, a vessel or something, an aluminum poured aluminum.
Yeah.
Something.
One day.
All right. I think we got off on a tangent from your original.
No, I love it.
What was the
I
original
love
question?
it. Well, no, it's like, so it's so funny. The pencil bones, that's like I said, whenever we had that conversation, that's what grabbed me. And that's what made me knew I wanted something from you, because I wanted, and it was representative of myself a bit and what I really love. I just didn't understand it at the time.
Okay.
I just knew that I wanted the pencil bone. And after a reflection, it's like the idea of the pencil, when you have like a fresh pencil, it's nothing but potential and possibilities.
Yes.
And it's endless. And it's kind of like living a life. And when you get to the end of that nub, you know, hopefully it was a life well lived, and you can reflect upon everything you've created with it, right? And it's made all these amazing things. And when it's in your hand, it's going to be way more amazing than virtually anybody else I've ever met. And so I don't know, that was just like just amazing to me, you know, that you had this tangible piece of kind of, you know, a life lived or a journey made. And that's why I started doing this podcast, is because I found out the thing that fascinates me most is not the piece of art at the end, but it was everything in between that got you there. And that's I think
nice.
It's so funny that I feel like I'm kind of coming full circle back to that moment talking to you guys again. So it's I don't know, it's and when you told me about the pencil bones, you did it so nonchalantly that it almost like it's almost like you didn't see the significance in it that that I did. And like, I mean, because it was just huge to me. Like it was, I don't know why, but it resonated with me. So
yeah, and
clearly.
at the time we probably didn't see that significance, which we can look back on now, of course, understand it and see it in ourselves time and time again. Just, you know.
Well, I was saving them still.
Yeah, you still save them.
I still. Well, I don't make as many.
Yeah.
No, I don't even know where. I don't know where the pencil is I'm using.
So what was the shift for you guys? Because I remember you were saying back the day it was, you know, it's kind of hard on you to sit there and hold your hand in that same position and do all that stuff.
Oh man, it was terrible. Well, I was doing it for way too many hours, I guess
Yeah, you were working. I don't know.
I would wake up like at 5
I feel like
in the
you were
morning.
working like 10 to 12 hours a day drawing.
And then like
so much.
Your alarm would go off, so I'd make you coffee, get me started, going, and then I'd go back to work, and then we'd have lunch. Yeah. And then I'd go back to work, and then we'd have dinner, and then I'd go back to work, and then like have like half a little drawing done.
Yeah, you were really dedicated to, you know, doing as many drawings as possible.
Well, I didn't want to have reproductions either. Like I wanted all originals. Yeah,
you were so committed to that idea.
Yeah.
And it worked for a while, but it's true that it became too much work.
I'd wake up in the middle of the night and my shooting pains in my arms and my hands
getting like carpal tunnel.
It was bad. But you know, I still like drawing the circles every now and then. So I drew one the other day, right?
Yeah.
I could still do it.
Yeah.
But you feel like, I guess like in everything in life, you grow and you change. And I guess that's represented in the mosaics you guys are doing now, right?
Yes. Yes. And the mosaics it was kind of a twofold decision, I guess. One is that you were coming to a point where it was rough on you to draw, and on the other side, I was envisioning this idea of what we're making now, and kind of wanting to try it, and we started making a few pieces. I think we may have made maybe a handful, like 2 or 3 pieces, where we were creating pixelated images of celebrities. So we would do I did one of Andy Warhol, I did one of Frida Kahlo, like artist celebrities, where I was kind of just using the images of them, just iconic images, to create like a pop art pixelated mosaic. And I think my main objective was just to learn and figure out how to do this. And it was neat to represent, to do, portraiture that way.
And to see if we could find the colors on
to see
cans.
like what can we do with the colors that exist on aluminum cans. The way I came up with the idea, I don't think it was anything more than just sort of a daydream. It was like I just kind of said, hey, have this idea, like I'm visioning this, let's try it. But it was shortly thereafter that I had a cancer diagnosis. And we were actually in the middle of a season of art festivals. We were on the road.
Were we going into the summer?
We were going into the summer. We were heading into the summer. I think we had 10 art festivals lined up. It was a real even number. It was like 10. And I was told I needed surgery, and it was going to take weeks. I think I ended up having 3 surgeries, and we were grounded for about at least 3 months. It was the entire summer. Yeah. We had to cancel all of our events. And I was cured. I recovered. Everything is fine. But during that time, now I was very weak, and I had just started to figure out this concept for something similar behind me. And I think being grounded and not traveling and doing art festivals like we had been for the past few years caused us to just our minds to have the opportunity to further develop this idea. And during that time, I was basically in bed for a lot of the time, but Nemo picked up where I left off with the idea, and he started making the portraits, and I kind of designed them and instructed him, and I sat in bed with a clipboard with my sketch, and I figured out what color goes where. And I told Nemo, so I just basically relayed to him, okay, we need 6 green ones, and now we need a yellow one, and we need 14 black ones and a blue one. And so he was just like running around, like punching cans and trying to find the cans. We told everyone we knew, save your cans, bring them to us. And so you were able to make an additional, I don't know, 4 to 6 large pieces of art during that time. Yeah,
like 2 foot by 2 foot pieces.
So once we got
That's
back,
right, we did like a chicken.
Yeah, we did a theme of like farm and ranch.
Yeah. We did the
motifs. Windmill. We did all that stuff. And really it was kind of like a way to experiment for us, So we had enough art at the end of that when I was ready to get going again, that we could reapply to a new batch of art festivals for the fall, I think, and start selling the aluminum can mosaics.
Well, yeah, it started off like a few pieces in the corner, and then it was like one whole wall, and then pretty soon our whole booth. Yeah, was and then we sold off all the pencil stuff, and then went the other route. I think that and it was so much easier on me to make them. That's what I was gonna say.
I thought it was gonna be hard on you, but it wasn't. It was a different movement, I guess, of your.
I guess. I guess so. Yeah. It's not. It's more big gestures or something.
So it was like going back to the original thought. It was a combination of Nemo needing a change in what he was doing daily, and my health issues that brought about what we're doing now. So it was a good thing in a way that we were stationary for long enough to kind of reassess like what we were doing, what we wanted to do, and what direction we wanted to go. And I don't know that we would have done that if we had just plowed through that summer as planned.
Yeah, no.
Because when you're on the road selling your art at festivals, you don't have much time to think about your art. You just kind of have to keep going and keep generating the art that you're making, because you've qualified and applied for these festivals
months ahead of time.
Months in advance, and you've basically signed a contract saying this is what I'm going to bring to this event, and you can't just change it before you get there. So you're kind of stuck with it. So
and when you have that many shows in a row, if along the line you're lucky and you do have a great show, well, you don't have any art for the next one, the next week. So you got to get to work, and sitting there making all those drawings. We even went to doing marker on canvas. Remember when we were trying to make them bigger?
Yeah.
And those, it was still
hard to make. Yeah.
But yeah, this stuff here, I think it's not easy, but I mean,
it's less work. It
doesn't take its toll on you, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you guys covered about 1,000 miles.
We got to drink a lot of beer to get all these cans, so, so that's what we.
Yeah, it's not going to drink itself, right?
Yeah.
Well, you guys, you covered about 10,000 miles there with that one conversation, and I don't know that I've got enough pens in the house to write down all the questions. So I'm just going to go back to the big one that you kind of glossed over really super fast, was that you had a cancer diagnosis. That's pretty significant. So there's so many pieces that go together here. So when you guys are on these, when you're doing the art festival thing, something you didn't mention is that you're living out of a van, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. So yeah, we bought a van.
Did that for 10 years?
It was in 2010, and we just moved out of it. So we lived in our van for 10 years, a solid 10 years.
Yeah.
And we thought when we bought it that we would live in it for about 5 years. And that's just not what happened. For whatever reason, we stayed in the van. But anyway, the reason we got the van, it's a camper van. We wanted to be able to do art festivals in other states. And initially, when we started, we were staying in cheap motels.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not going to last. I don't want to stay in cheap motels for 5 years.
Yeah.
So we got the van. And it was a little bit before, or maybe on the cusp of like the van life, I guess, counterculture, or, there's this kind of van life thing that people present on Instagram as being like this kind of a hippie, glamorous lifestyle of some sort.
Fake.
But it's really fake. It's completely
It's
fake.
miserable.
Because it's so difficult. You can go to the seashore and pose with your surfboard next to your van and look glamorous and beautiful. But and we did that.
Yeah.
But
but the night before, we were in a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah.
Or at a rest stop.
Yeah, we're like
with some lousy
truckers.
Bum leaning against your van eating donuts.
And he's not even sharing them. I get it.
Yeah, I think that we spent so much time.
Or waking up in the middle of the night. What was that noise?
Yeah. Going from festival to festival, and just having such long distances. And it was great. We had a national parks pass. So we saw a lot of national parks, and we saw a lot of regional, state and local parks, and stayed in some interesting, unique campgrounds. But more than anything, driving and sleeping on the side of the road somewhere in our van. It was a huge, risky, dangerous lifestyle. We had problems, we had breakdowns, we had blowouts. And
that's just the relationship, not even the van, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But,
no, because that's what makes me like, that's the first thing I start thinking about. Well, I think about a lot of stuff. One is like the very first thing I thought of was, how do you go to the bathroom when you live in a van? That sounds like a tricky endeavor.
Yeah, there's ways. So we started off. It's set up like an RV. So you can get a van that's just completely a shell and just kind of put your stuff in it and live in there. But we went ahead and got an RV. And so it had a toilet, a shower, gray water, sewage tank, bed,
cookers, and
kitchenette, desk. Like the van was mostly desk, really, for working, and storage space under the bed for all of our stuff. And it was kind of amazing because we actually did fit all of our stuff in there with us.
Yeah, the tent and all the bins with all the
art, everything.
Everything.
Were you guys making art inside the van?
Yeah, we were making it because we did not have an address. So we had, when in Texas, we had a place to be, which is the ranch where we are now. But most of the time we were on the road and we did not have an address, and we did not have anywhere to go back to, especially during the summer, I would think, like spring, summer into fall. So we
just stay out there.
We would just stay on the road. And so we were making all of our art in the van. And I guess what we were doing was pretty much making batches. So we would make what we could, then sell it the next weekend, and then start over again, make another batch, sell it the next weekend, and just repeat the process. And it was like an addiction, I guess. Like we just couldn't stop, because you get the shows lined up so far in advance, and you're just committed, and you just keep going and keep going. And I guess that's probably why it ended up lasting 10 years, and I think a lot of art festival artists can probably relate to this, is that once you get into it, it's like you can't stop. It's like you're on a runaway train.
Yeah.
You're just
It's like a gambling addiction.
yeah. It's like
Gotta roll the dice.
gotta roll the dice every weekend.
Next show is gonna be a great show.
Yeah, and like
Next-
we had.
And then
some,
right when you're about to give up, you're like, oh, maybe this. And then you have this amazing show.
Yeah.
Everybody just loves your art and
Mhm.
just like throwing you money
Mhm.
and you're like, oh yeah, I could do
Let's
this.
keep doing it. Yeah. So it was like, and it was there's such extreme highs and lows because we would have a couple of shows like that where it was just like everything was perfect, everything fell into place, the weather was glorious, the people appreciated what we had, and then we'd go to a show where it would rain or the wind would be horrible.
Your booth would flip over,
The ground would flood because we're
Right,
outdoors.
right.
or the van wouldn't start when you're trying to
Oh
leave,
yeah,
or
the van wouldn't start, or something terrible, or just we wouldn't make any money, and then we'd say, "Well, maybe we should quit. This is horrible. Like this is the worst experience ever." But then we'd go on to the next one, and it would be great. So
yeah,
yeah,
That sounds like
that's like,
sounds very bipolar.
it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ups and
It was.
downs are crazy.
it's the addiction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
I think
want-
you're right.
you want to do it again.
Yeah.
I want to do it right now.
What's the part of it that's addictive? Is it whenever you see somebody buy something, or when you sell a lot of stuff? I mean, where's the addiction part
Well,
of it?
All of it. It's the perfect storm, like you were saying. Like
Mhm.
everybody just appreciates what you're doing. They're people are buying stuff. People are, doing commissions. They're
Mhm.
everything. You win an award.
Mm.
You get a
Oh,
free
yeah.
booth for the next year or
Yeah.
whatever.
Winning an award is nice.
Or they have a good dinner,
I think that
free beer.
and you're kind of talking about you're kind of talking about
They
like
feed you free.
the things that are sort of the obvious.
Well, you pay your booth fee, so you pay for that beer.
Those things are sort of like the surface things, I think. But I think deep down, the root of it, it's more like the fulfillment of being an artist and
Making a living.
and being able to do it and saying these people appreciate what I got and
and then like the van part, it's kind of cool. Running around, living like you're on the run, like you're running from the law almost.
Kind of feels like
You're trying to lay low in some random parking lot or in a neighborhood and trying to be quiet so nobody knows you're there, and it's
And
kind of
it's
exciting.
I gotta say, yeah, it's exciting. I gotta say, we're talking about a lot of negatives. Of course, we had been living for 10 years this way. So I gotta talk about a little bit about the positives too, about living in a van. There's the freedom.
Yeah.
Because we are not tied to a place. So we're not like married to a mortgage or anything like that. So, the freedom to just go wherever we want within, limits of where we need to be.
And one day you're being in the desert, the next day you're by the ocean, the next day you're in the mountains. That's
Yeah, and we had some
really cool,
really beautiful places that we lived, especially in the mountains, I think, where
the aspen trees were just out the door.
And the weather was perfect. Or you open the door and
the
there's
sunsets.
There's like a beautiful deer just right there outside your door, like
or an elk
munching grass,
Yeah.
and just the beauty of nature. And I think that we always loved when we'd be parked somewhere in nature, a lot of times on BLM land, and the animals it was almost like we were in like a hunting blind in a way, because animals would just come and go all around us and not realize that we were there. And that was just really wonderful. Just look out the window and just see the animals just
doing stuff,
just being
animals
and us being so just invisible to them in a way, I guess, because we're just quiet, silent, not moving in our van,
drinking wine,
maybe watching the sunset. And then just like I said about going to the national parks and being able to go to the Grand Canyon and camp there, or Mount Rushmore or wherever, Joshua Tree, that was wonderful. Like I think that it was almost like we combined our careers with like this super long vacation to see America.
Yeah.
Although that kind of wore off after a while because we kind of saw everything we wanted to see, and then we was like, all right.
Yeah, and year after year, I mean, you've kind of hone in on what shows you want to do and what areas are good. So you're kind of just always going back to the same spots.
Right.
Year after year
Yeah,
anyway.
we started to repeat things because we knew what worked for us and what didn't. So we would just kind of, we've been to Georgia. That wasn't good for us. We're not going to go back. But, maybe Colorado was great. So we go back to Colorado every single summer. Yeah, Kansas was always great for some reason. And Wyoming and Minnesota. And, there was, some states, Texas.
There's some really
course,
good shows. They're probably all out of business now, but
they are.
Yeah. I like the idea of looking back at that and knowing that like every day was some form of adventure, I'm sure, whether you wanted it to be or not. And the fact that you're there.
There was something always different out the window.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Always different scene out the window.
And you're there with your ride or die. I mean, every day you got your best friend with you.
Yeah.
Because to me, like if I go and I experience something new, that's great. But when I have like my partner with me, it's just, it's such a different experience being able to actually like share it with another person.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I would say that living in a van with your partner it's either going to make you or break you. And I think that maybe we got a stronger relationship out of it. I mean, I would imagine some people out there would probably part ways, because it's just such small, close quarters togetherness, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
But we got good at it, I think. Just good at cohabitating in 96 square feet.
Yeah.
But, it didn't feel that limiting because we were
had the outside.
We were outdoors all the time.
Yeah.
We had tans all the time. Because we were just outside, fresh
either
air,
working
sunshine.
in the art show or running on the trails or doing
that's the other thing. Once we got into fitness, then we started seeking out trails. So we spent so much time in between shows, in addition to making art, hiking and running on trails, just wherever. Good ones, bad ones,
Yeah.
Yeah, one time we were I think we were walking somewhere. I don't
remember.
All the
mosquitoes? That one?
Oh, yeah, we were attacked by mosquitoes. But I was thinking about the coyote we saw that just kind of just like walked right in front of us one time. We're just like, whoa, did you see that? I think that's what it was. It may have been a dog, but...
Yeah. Or a lizard.
Yeah.
It was this big.
That was back when your hallucinogen experimentation phase, right?
There you go.
Could have been anything. I think that's amazing. It's amazing. So, do you remember anything like in particular that it changed in your relationship to be crammed together? Like you guys would do something one way, and then once you started living together, it kind of like didn't work, or you had to adjust around.
I don't think so. Because we met working at an architectural firm, and we worked on projects together, and then when we started living together, we would work and go home together. So it was kind of
we were together a lot anyway.
Yeah. And then when we did live in a house, we never liked being in separate rooms.
Yeah.
So if like I had a studio and
I had an office.
Yeah. So and then like it was always like
we'd migrate.
Either she was always in the studio or I was in the office.
Yeah.
Doing stuff.
I'm like, we don't need 2 rooms for this.
Yeah. All we need is one big desk and sit next to each other.
So then we did.
So
so that was the precursor to getting the van. That we had just kind of started working in the same space anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure thinking back on it that we had moments like frustrating moments, like driving. I was always driving. And sometimes it was incredibly stressful, and I would probably be like, yelling and screaming at the road, and Nemo is over here trying to tell me to breathe, just calm down. So things like that, or maybe when the van had issues, sometimes we'd have mechanical issues with either the van or the RV elements of the van, such as the water pump.
Yeah.
So that
went for a long time.
Nerve-wracking to like. Our water pump stopped pumping water like mid shower, and you'd be all like soaped up. And what is wrong with the water pump? So like one time in particular, like you were all soaped up in the shower. I was half dressed, and it stopped. So the way to access the water pump, you had to get out of the van and then go through the back.
Because all the art stuff was in the way.
Yeah,
and you had to move stuff to get to it.
Art out of the way to get to the water pump. And the best I could do was basically like thump the pump. So I would like hit the pump a couple times, and then it would start working for a while.
You go in a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, so we have this issue. Yes. Oh, and then one time we were in a parking lot, and we were working on we were trying to fix the pump. It was a saga. It lasted all summer until we figured out the problem.
It wasn't grounded right.
It wasn't grounded. Yeah. That was so simple. It was like tightening a screw, and it would make the pump work, but we couldn't figure it out. But we had people coming up to us while we were trying to like work on our pump, asking us questions about what are you doing and what's wrong with your van, and oh, is that a bad pump? And just like we're just like, we don't have time for this. Like we just need to fix our pump. We don't have time to chit chat about the thing. So that would be frustrating. But that kind of brings thought, which was how we dealt with people when we were in these public places, and probably places that we're not supposed to be parking and sleeping in our van. And I'm very polite by nature, and I'm always, I'm the optimist. I think everybody is good. And Nemo, on the other hand, and it's a good thing. He's, on the other hand, he's very pessimistic, and he will think that people are up to no good 100% of the time. And if they're walking up to you at night in a parking lot, it's probably not going to end well. So we would have,
or even during the day.
So we would have situations where people would be trying to interact with us while we were trying to live our lives and mind our own business. And I'm very polite, and I'd be like, "Yeah, come on in, take a tour of our van." And Nemo would be like, "No, go away. Like, what do you want? Get out of here, scram." So probably by your nature, we probably avoided some, who knows what could have happened situations, because I'm just too friendly. And that's, to strangers. So,
she's learning though.
So I think in that regard, like, team, because there are moments when you want to be a friendly person, and there are moments when you don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had incidents where strange things were happening outside our van. And one of them that pops into my head always is sleeping and waking up to noise and headlights and stuff, and seeing women climbing into a donation box. There was a donation box in the parking lot, and there are these people that showed up after midnight, and they were stealing from the donation box. Right. And what is happening? What are they doing? And it was raining. I remember it was so strange. And that was
during an art show.
The one lady kind of went head first into this one-way only drop-in thing, and we were just watching out the window and being entertained. I guess we were sleepy. It was after midnight. And the other lady was holding her by her ankles and picking her all the way down into this box and pulling her back up with like bags of stuff. So it was like little things like that. I think that was the most humorous one. And
the guy falling out of the tree.
Oh, the man falling out of the tree. Yeah.
Was that in like Ohio or where?
No, we were in Omaha, Nebraska. We were parked near a downtown city street, and around 2 a.m. the bars were closing and drunk people were going down the street. We woke up because we heard a voice
above us.
And the voice was above us, and we heard, "Guess where I am?" "No, I'm not at the bar." No, I'm not at home. "I'm up a tree downtown." Like So there was a man up in the tree. He had climbed up there, and he was having a one-way conversation on his cell phone, and we were hearing this. And then all of a sudden, the branch he was on broke, and he fell. I don't know how high he was, but he fell. It snapped, and he fell, splat on the sidewalk. And my instinct, of course, is to run out there and save him. Nemo's like, no, give it a second. Sure enough, this crowd of people, all his friends came running over there, scooping him up, taking care of him, limping off into the distance.
He limped off bad.
Yeah, he definitely hurt himself. Yeah, and I'm like, should we call 911? But no, I mean, it was, people were there, and they knew what to do, I suppose. I don't know how many times I wanted to call 911, and then the situation would sort of resolve itself because of whatever reason things were happening. But I always said, if I see somebody who's actually being harmed or getting hurt, I'm going to call, Yeah, especially if they can't help themselves. But that never happened. So
Yeah.
oh well.
It was always people just acting stupid.
Yeah.
Like, or doing stupid things.
Yeah.
Not really anything bad.
Because
Because even one night we woke up to like this glass bottle
Breaking.
rolling and then breaking near us, but it turned out it was a street sweeper that shot it out.
Yeah, the street sweeper threw a bottle at us, and
but we woke up and we were like, oh no!
We're like, who's throwing glass?
Yeah. That's hilarious. I for some reason I imagine you guys like it's like a reverse fishbowl situation. You guys are inside this little bubble, just watching all the the world. Maybe you're like divers in a submarine, and you're just kind of navigating around and like investigating all this crazy stuff.
Observing out the window, but not interfering.
Yeah, like Nemo looking out.
Yeah.
All this humanity you're kind of figuring out, navigating your way through. That's awesome. So something you said earlier was that you guys would like sit next to each other like in the office, and I guess eventually that kind of coalesced into you living this van life. So when you guys are sitting next to each other, do you have to like constantly talk, or do you guys have like just long periods where you're just quiet and focused and working?
Yeah, both.
Yeah. Well, I always have to have the radio on.
Oh yeah, he's a DJ. Always with the radio on.
I think too much if I don't have something going on.
I think it helps you focus.
Yeah. Well, because I have too many ideas, and it's like every few minutes I'm like, oh, what about if we do this now, or what about and it's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah, stay focused.
The curse of creativity.
Yeah, we got a plan. Yeah, just keep working. But we would have long periods of silence and long periods of discussion. Well,
making these pieces here, we do a lot of hammering. So we wear ear protection, so we can't even really hear each other.
That's true. When we're actually hammering nails, we are not really talking to each other at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we spend a lot of time hammering nails.
Yeah. A lot of
Well, when you guys were talking about how you first started doing the can mosaics and stuff, you were trying to do like representation of artists, kind of, sort of, I guess, a can representation of that. And then it's just moved into some more generalized mosaics. And I was just curious, what was the driver? One, like, how did you pick your subjects that you were to make it of? And do you think, all of the, just the journey of life you guys did and on the road and all that stuff, did that change how you kind of do the can art, or was that just sort of a natural progression, you reckon?
I don't know. Thinking back on it, I feel like I said, it was having a subject to represent was sort of a way to experiment with the materials. And I usually chose the subjects, and it was based on what inspired me. And I felt like, well, I'm inspired by these artists or these scenes or these ideas. But I think that I never felt like a super strong connection to any of those things. It was just sort of like, all right, that one's done, let's try another one. That one's done, let's do another one. Like, I want to hone my craft, and this is how I'm doing it. And we were lucky enough to be able to qualify for art festivals where we could actually put what we're doing in front of the public, and we had people who appreciated what we did and purchased what we made. So that was super gratifying. But once I sort of accepted that I didn't feel a strong connection to the subjects, really, I felt a strong connection to the materials. Then I started to think, well, maybe the art can grow or somehow improve or get better if I really focus on my connection to the materials. And it's not that I necessarily feel a strong connection to aluminum cans. It's more like this is a valuable resource that's everywhere that I want to use. And so I consider myself an environmentalist, and we live in a part of Texas that does not have a recycling program. So,
surprise.
Yeah. So we can track down places to recycle cans that are far away from here. But a lot of cans just end up in the garbage. And so just collecting them up and preventing them from going to a landfill and not having easy access to personally recycle them, I feel like in a way this is the next best thing. So I'm sort of, utilizing a material that's abundant and beautiful. And so that's my connection to it. And the fact that we're using hammers and nails, I think, is like this rudimentary, very primitive, almost old-fashioned, physical manifestation of like construction. Yeah. Like if you think about construction, like as a builder, an architect, which is where our backgrounds are, hammering a nail into a piece of wood is just this basic thing. It's just so pure and simple. And I think that combining, my environmentalist need to utilize garbage with this core of my being, which is an architect who wants to build things, I think is how I am deeply connected to what we're making. I think that you would say the same, right? I mean, we kind of have the same background.
Well, for your part, I think while I was doing the pencil drawings and stuff, she always put things on grids anyway. Yeah. Whenever we made something, right, just so for the house, like like we need a piece of art here, and it wasn't going to be some pencil drawing that we can put in the art show and try to sell. We needed something else, and you'd always like line up something.
Yeah, bottle caps. The pencils, I guess. X-Acto knives.
The X-Acto knives that I sharpen. So stuff like that. Yeah. For me, it's always been about the graphic design on the cans. Yeah. So I like looking for, like, people always ask me, so what kind of cans are you looking for? And I was like, I don't know, I haven't seen it yet. Like, I want something I haven't seen. Like, show me something that I haven't seen. Like when, like, I like the stuff that says like limited edition on it, or like when, I don't know, my favorites were like Spider-Man was on Dr. Pepper, Wonder Woman was on Dr. Pepper. Yeah. Stuff like that. Sports logos and teams and things like that, or when they change cans on you.
The design of the can.
Yeah, or their logos or stuff like that. Like, I get really excited when, I see a can either at the store in the trash can, or somebody has it in their hand or whatever, and I'm just like, I haven't seen that can before, I want it. And I want that cool piece.
Yeah, it's because I think you have like an appreciation for this design, that when the thought process that went to the design on the can.
Yeah, because somebody had to sit there and think about that, and they have to draw it,
and the
then
colors,
they have to. So it's like it's art, and we're just not even looking at it and throwing it away in the trash. Like when I'm like, hey, like your dad even. I mean, he knows what we do, and he drinks a lot of Coke, and I'm like, hey, that Coke has a whatever, something different. And he's like, oh, wait, what? Like,
because most people don't know. Especially like Coca-Cola, they change. They have like a theme. So at Christmas time, you see like the Santa or the polar bears. And then around the Olympics, a lot of times they have the Olympic athletes on the cans. Yeah, which is really cool. But a lot of people don't even see it.
Right.
It's
just invisible.
And I think that
and like that's all I pay attention to.
We're like compiling this like document of
cool graphics,
can graphics that are probably not likely to exist forever into the future.
Yeah, well, already a lot of the breweries that we've, that we have cans of have already
gone out of business.
And pre-pandemic, like they were already going. Yeah. There's just too many.
Yeah, so we kind of think of them as time capsules in that regard. It's like this document of like.
Yeah, that's my part. That's what I like about it.
Like this piece maybe represents cans from like 2017 through 2019 or something.
No, because I have a lot of the vintage stuff in there. Oh,
that's true. Well, anyway, it's once this is done, it's not going to get any more can pieces, and
this one's done.
This one is done, and that means that what you see here is, like I said, like a representation of a moment in time. Yeah. Of what graphics look like at that moment in time, which will be different from what they look like in the future.
Yeah.
That's kind of, so when I hear you guys describe that, like what I envision in my head is you guys are walking around and you have kind of like this secret superpower, right? Like there's this secret world that only you guys know about, and everybody else is like completely blind to it. I think that's like so cool. Yeah. Like you're looking at the world.
Hey,
completely different.
Yeah.
Pepsi changed their color.
Yeah.
We're like, what? It tastes the same. Because they changed their blue.
They did. They
a
changed
few
the shade
years
of blue.
ago.
Yeah, we noticed that. And
Yeah, I mean, the old color was better. Damn
Yeah.
you, Pepsi.
It reminds me of when I was a kid, my uncle's a carpenter, and occasionally he would do roofing and stuff like that. And so, nowadays we have roofing nails that have like the big square piece of metal on the back, or it's plastic now, that are already pre-made. Well, back then those didn't exist. And so what they did is if they did a run of bottle caps where the label was slightly off, like the printing was off, they would just grab those and sell them to hardware stores. Well, you take that misprinted bottle cap that was still flat and use that as the tab to hamper down the sheeting on the roof.
But yeah, every now and then you'd see the little graphic.
Yeah.
And the thin caps.
Yeah. It like takes me back when I see that. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's so funny is I found a parallel between the hummingbirds I have at home with your mosaics that I wasn't really expecting to. And so one of the things I love about, I've already talked about how much I like the pencil bone and how much that means to me. But the picture itself is you see it for what it is. And then as you get closer, it's something completely different, right? And it was the way that you would actually draw them. And it doesn't matter how many times I look at them. Whenever I get close and I look at just a slightly different portion, I see something different, right? There's just a slight variation here or there. And with your mosaics, it's the same sort of thing, right? From a distance, it's one thing. But when you get in close, every little piece is completely different, and there's something new to find every time you look at it. And I think it, I know it's interactive and it moves and it makes a little bit of sound, but there's also, kind of an infinite way that you can appreciate it, something like you guys said, a snapshot in time, but each little piece is something different that you can look at and appreciate. I think that's so cool.
Yeah, that is part of the intention behind it, like I said, from a distance, you're going to see kind of overall a bit of a murky color in a way, but it's sort of like a fabric or textile.
Yeah. I think of it as like static. Like if you're looking at static on like a TV or something, that's kind of what I see.
But up close, and your eyes can make out the individual. You're going to see
the little artwork,
letters, pieces of graphic logo, fonts, characters, recognizable things. Yeah. Up close in all different colors.
Yeah, man, it's like like a person. Up close, each one's an individual story. When you back away, you see the whole of the human, all of their experiences they've collected. And that's deep. I love it. But I guess that's art, right? You appreciate it for how somebody told me one time, stop telling me I'm liking this thing wrong. It's like, just because I don't like it in the way you like it doesn't mean it's wrong. Let me like it how I want to like it. I was like, that actually makes a lot of sense. So I try not to paint somebody else's picture. Like, I let them figure out what it means to them. So something else I'm curious about is how you guys actually got all the way here. So what was little Hannan and little Nemo like? Like, were you guys artistic as kids? Like, what was your home like? Was that kind of the thing that was fostered, or was it just something you found on your own?
I think Nemo would answer differently. I think I was very artistic and interested in art and loving to create things. And I remember a time in my life when one of my favorite things to do was to take construction paper and cut little tiny pieces of construction paper and build little tiny models of the corner of a room. So I would put a floor and 2 walls as the corner with my glued construction paper, and then I would build little pieces of furniture. And I remember loving to build a grand piano. Like, that was my favorite thing to do, a grand piano in the corner of a room, and maybe a plant. And I think that was kind of somewhere between being artistically creative and being architecturally inclined. So when it came time to go to university, I chose to study architecture, and I thought, I didn't know, I always wanted to be an artist or an architect. And I thought, well, an architect sounds like a profession where you could survive and make money, but I don't know about an artist. So I chose architecture. So that's how I ended up there. But like, my whole childhood, of course, was doing little creative projects like that. But you, on the other hand, I don't think you thought about being an artist.
I didn't even know I didn't even know that was anything.
Yeah.
Like,
you didn't know you could be an artist.
Yeah, no. I worked construction with my dad and uncles from a really young age. And I always would see like that they were building these houses and stuff using the floor plans, you know, and I always thought like, well, I understand how to do a bay window, all that kind of, but where does that come from?
Right.
Where does the drawing come from? So I got interested in that aspect of it. And when I found out that they paid a lot more and you can work in AC, it kind of, I went down that route. And
because you like the idea of being like in air conditioning at a desk instead of like
on a hot roof or whatever, shooting yourself with the gun in the hand and things like. And but then when I got into the real world, I guess it was all computer. So I wanted to hand draft. That's why the pencil drawings came from, because I wanted to use a pencil on vellum, which it's
but
that's
like
what the pencil.
You learned to do AutoCAD and draw with a computer to do floor plans. You learned all of that, But you were like,
and when we met,
but you still felt like something was lacking, obviously, and that's why you started to draw the pencil drawings.
Yeah.
And then when he started drawing those, you were actually drawing them at the office. So
on my lunch break.
So we worked in an architectural firm, which is where we met, and he was drawing these drawings, just grabbing a sheet of paper, I don't know, vellum or computer paper and pencils, and the noon to 1 o'clock hour, you would eat your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then you would spend the rest of the time drawing.
Yeah.
And so you started drawing so many. And that's around the time that I said,
And at the time, I was doing abstract paintings on the weekend.
You were.
And we were doing art shows.
Yeah.
But like gallery stuff and at a friend's shop or whatever, and they were big abstract paintings where like what they call it in that one article. It was like Jackson Pollock-esque, met Frida Kahlo,
you were just like
Van Gogh kind of thing like that.
You were making representational stuff sometimes. Well, anyway, but you started doing these drawings. Yeah. So I said, these are really, really good. Like we should frame these. We should do something with them. Yeah. And we did. And I think you made a handful, like 10 or 12 drawings, and we had them framed, and we started showing them. And
misappropriation.
Yeah, that's right. We called the show Misappropriations because it's like he was misappropriating materials from The Office.
Well, because it went from 1 hour during lunchtime to an hour and a half to 2 hours to as long as a boss didn't walk by.
Yeah, when you weren't being watched, you were drawing.
Yeah, so I always had it like, I had my, the computer and the mouse right here drawing, and I had a table next to me that had the drawing taped down on the table, and I had a piece of paper over it, and the pencils were there.
So you were hiding it?
And so whenever nobody was looking, I'd sit there and I'd draw a little bit.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But I made a good title because then you drew women's portraits, remember?
Yeah.
And so it was Miss, like MISS, and then appropriations, like a woman named Miss Appropriations. So we felt very clever. But that led to art festivals
Heather Dalton came up with that name.
Yeah, Heather came up with that name. But that's interesting to remember because you did have a gallery show or two. Yeah. But then we found out about the festival in College Station, and it was already scheduled, and this was going to be our first art festival, and we were the last ones to get in on that lineup because we didn't know. Someone told us about it.
Jack White.
Jack told us about it, and we called him up. Her name was Linda. We called up Linda, and she said, "Yeah, come on down. I have one more spot." It was like the last minute, and we're like, "We don't even have a tent." I think we like ran out and bought one really quickly.
Yeah. Well, we went for the one that had the two cheerleaders on it, opening it up.
That's right. The box with the two cheerleaders.
We're like, hey, if two cheerleaders could open it up, we could do it.
I was really worried we able to do it because I never even used one of those pop-up tents.
It was a lot harder than.
It was harder than that, yeah. So, and that is when we met you because that was our very first art festival.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
And they kept giving us free food from that Blue
Baker right there, yeah.
So we thought, man, I could get into this.
Oh, that's right. It was a very good art festival, and the lady who set it up did a great job of coordinating with all the restaurants in that plaza. because
Then I guess everybody was coming over from it was Parents Weekend, right, or something
it
like
was,
that.
yeah,
Oh,
it's Parents
probably
Week.
so. Yeah, it would have been
And we're
packed.
just like, man, all
Yeah.
these good-looking people. They
Yeah.
love my art.
And then
They're giving
people
me free
kept bringing us
food.
food. It's like we ate like 4 or 5 meals a day because these restaurants, and they would come and just bring it to us. And we're
Yeah.
like, this is what an art festival is? Wow. This is
So we're in a Honda Element, so we had to go back to a motel every evening.
Yeah, we didn't have
But
our
had we
van.
been living in the parking lot, it would have been all right.
But it wasn't for 2 more years until we bought our van. So we were still kind of,
Well, we did a show here and there.
Yeah.
Like in San Antonio.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and then we moved to Denver.
and then we started doing them over there.
We did the Colorado shows, and those were great.
Do you remember the build up to the first show? What was were you guys nervous, apprehensive? Were you just really excited or what?
I was excited and nervous, and I felt very unprepared.
What was about the setup?
Yeah, the setup was difficult.
Because we came from a gallery background where it's like the wall exists already. You know, you just come in and you hang up your. But this one, you have to like build this imaginary space and put up this fake walls and all this kind of stuff and then you got to deal with the wind and
the wind. And at some point they got really
and
windy.
at an art show people like to touch more than in a gallery.
Oh, that's right. There's a whole different attitude about everything. In a gallery, it's very like elegant and intellectual.
Yeah, very refined.
In an art festival, it's not that you're not going to find that, but you're going to get a lot more like toddlers eating ice cream and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
or people eating a turkey leg and they're pointing at your art with turkey leg. Hey, how long does it take to make this thing here? You know, that kind of thing. You're like,
yeah.
Can you swallow before you?
I remember
blow on it.
The wind being a big unknown that we didn't expect, and at one point,
because we didn't have weights, because we didn't know you needed weights. The cheerleaders on the box didn't have weights.
I remember that there was a maintenance person that turned on the fountain at some point. So there was a huge fountain in the middle of the plaza, and it was very windy. And someone decided it would be nice if the fountain was on because it wasn't gushing water. It was just a pool, I think. They turned on the water, and these huge streams of water were like going 30 feet up into the air, and the wind was just blowing the water directly into all the art at that end of the festival. And everybody was just getting rained on, and everybody with the art was just scrambling, running around, trying to cover up everything. So that was like a big wake up call. Like, this is something we're going to have to deal with because things like this could happen.
Yeah.
And of course, later we heard stories about people being set up on
sprinklers
on lawns that had sprinklers with a sprinkler.
And they would pop up right in the middle of the booth at in the middle of the night, you know,
at night. No one's there to protect their art.
Never happened to us.
And then the other thing I think was just a logistical thing of packing the art between shows so that it wouldn't get damaged or scratched.
Yeah.
And being able to stack it into a vehicle. We did not pack the art. We just had a pile, and we just kind of, this is what we're doing. You know, we didn't even, I think I may have put like articles of clothing between each art piece or something
blankets
to keep them
and things
from scratching. So we got kind of like good at all that, you know, the details, the logistical elements and unknowns.
Yeah.
How about like the people piece? Like, so you said you were accustomed to gallery, and this is more my perception is that people would be a little bit more standoffish as opposed to the festival sort of. Like, do you feel like it's like a little bit more intimate, like in the festival, like you're like there, you know, with the salt of the earth, dirty?
I don't know. I think it might be the opposite of that.
Well, because if you do a gallery show, and like if you do a proper gallery show, and you know your name is on the window out front, and you're there, and maybe you're wearing a tie, and everybody comes in, and everybody's like, you know, dressed nice, and they're there to on maybe like a date or something. I don't know, whatever. But you know, everybody's there to
have conversation.
Yeah, and they want to meet the artist, and they want to talk to you.
They know why they're there.
They know why they're there.
They know why they're there.
There's a reason. I got in my car to drive to go see this art show, either because I know the artist or I know the gallery,
or maybe I'm thinking about buying a piece of art.
Yeah, or so. Yeah,
But in the festival world,
I'm there to see my band play.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of distractions.
And your art is in my way.
Yeah, it can be like that. Yeah, it can be like that. It depends on the way it's presented and promoted.
Well, yeah, because
right?
like there are good shows. I mean,
Yeah.
like Cherry Creek in Denver, Fort Worth is a great show.
Yeah,
Worth was a great show.
But a lot of times it's a family outing to go during the day to an art festival. So you'll have
something free.
Parents, aunts and uncles, grandparents, children, babies, and everybody's out there enjoying the day and looking at art. And so,
which if you have something that they want, that's great.
Yeah,
you know?
But a lot of times
you're selling those little marshmallow popper shooting guns, or
that goes back into like figuring out which festivals work for us. Because for some people, if you're selling a marshmallow shooter, as a craft, you go to a festival that's attracting families. That's perfect. It works. But if you're selling something more along the lines of fine art, and you find yourself at one of those festivals, which we always, we did all the time. You don't really know in advance that it's going to be that.
But your cheapest piece is $500.
Yeah, and then you get kind of like laughed at. But then there's
like $500 for that.
There's other festivals that are just a little bit more about the art, and they really focus on promoting the artists and focus on the art itself. And those are the ones that work really well for us.
But those are the ones that are really hard to get into.
And again, I think that's why we did this for so long. Not only for the enjoyment, the thrill, and the excitement of the adventure, but because it just takes a long time to figure out what festivals work for you and what don't.
Yeah. It sounds like you definitely have to kind of earn your way. You got to earn your stripes to get into that stuff, right?
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
And I guess every time you earn your way in there, that's just validation of what you're doing, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Which again is part of that addiction problem. When you
feeds into it.
And then the next year the jury doesn't let you in again.
Yeah, you're like, what?
You're like, but I won an award.
Like, how could this be? They loved me last year, but and that's something I think that is interesting for people when they learn that art festivals are not just a matter of artists showing up in a neighborhood and setting up their booths. It's a long process to plan an event like that, and the artists are juried in, so we have to apply and we have to be accepted, and then there's a booth fee that we need to pay, and we're not provided with any equipment except a square on the sidewalk. Basically, this is where you set up,
and free beer if you're lucky.
So I always enjoy talking to people and kind of educating them when we're in the festival environment, when they're kind of assuming that, well, can I set up and sell my craft next door to you next year? That would be fine, right? I said, well, you have to go apply, and then you have to get accepted, and then you have to pay the booth fee. And it's always kind of like a what? Wow, I didn't know.
And I always imagine it's kind of like American Idol, like the judges are just sitting there looking at your art and kind of tearing you a new one, trying to pick out
except you're not there to hear about it, so you don't know.
Right, you can't defend yourself.
Yeah.
So something that I'm kind of curious about is, you were talking about when you were a kid, you made these little corners of rooms. You said grand pianos is what you were after. That was like your favorite thing. What was the mark of I did a good job? Was it accuracy, or was it just completion? Like you could see it and know what it was. What was it that made you happiest about that?
For me, it was, I guess, me being able to recognize what it was. And I don't know that other people would have looked at it and said, yeah, that's a grand piano in the corner of a room. Because, of course, I was a very young child. I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years old. But I think, for me, it was more like, as I'm cutting and tearing these little pieces of paper, maybe I didn't intend to, but I had a piece of paper that made me think about a grand piano. So that's what I did, So it was kind of more like the material kind of inspiring what I did. And maybe it didn't necessarily, I don't think they would have been accurate representations. It would have been sort of what my 8-year-old eye or brain thought it looked like. But
you still chasing that same feeling now with your current art, you think?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Well, yeah, because you have a vision of something. Mm-hmm. Like the pieces, like those pieces right there. With
you're right.
The angles.
A lot of times it's that's true. You have a vision. I have a vision and I say, Nemo, let's try this. And, with our art in this framework, with this material, let's try.
Except now it has to look that way between both of us.
Let's try something else. And is this going to work? You don't know. And like what I see in my mind's eye a lot of times, many times, probably 75% of the time, when we actually fabricate the piece and stand back and look at it, I say, I don't think that's what I had in mind after all.
Yeah, and it can take like months to get to that.
Yeah, that can be so frustrating too. Yeah. But then there's the other percentage of the time when it does look exactly like what I thought I wanted to make, and it's a winner. But again, that doesn't mean that we can sell it, and that's always the thing that's frustratingly in the back of your head is like, can we sell this? Is this something people are going to like?
Yeah.
Like I became obsessed with the hexagons.
Yeah.
I said, I think we should make hexagons, and we have sold quite a few hexagons, but at first when I made the hexagons, nobody had any interest in them at all. They're just, we put them on a website. We showed them to Uncommon. I think I showed them to Uncommon Goods, or at least told our Uncommon Goods buyer about them. No, I really just had to make the hexagons, and I made the hexagons, and it took a while, about a year, and then all of a sudden some people started showing interest in them. So we sold the hexagons, several actually, and
I feel like they're more grown up.
Maybe
I feel like they're more elegant, more.
Well, just so that people can understand listening, that's one of the first times that we started using the back side of the can. So we're essentially hiding the graphics, and we're using
just the
silver of the back side.
We're using the other part of the can. When we make art, I go through and I punch, like let's I don't even know, like you get a can and it's like, okay, there's a figure, pop that. There's a part
text.
Of the logo, text, get that. The recycling emblem, get that. The barcode, get that. And if it's a boring can, then you're left with, a lot of
leftover.
Yeah. So she's like, well, why don't we start using the other side? And I'm like, okay, well, let me start punching those, and
so we ended up with a whole bunch of punches that weren't that great for facing forward.
Yeah.
And I said, I think we should do this like honeycomb effect by, shifting our grid a little bit and letting it form this hexagon shape, and it's going to be blank. So like I'm thinking, usually we're doing things that are so vibrant and multicolored, and it's all about the color, and it's all about the graphics and the forms on the can design. But I really want to see when we use the other side. Yeah. So I made these, and I thought they were so beautiful, and it's exactly what I wanted. And what I like about them is not only the satisfying shape of the hexagon, but the fact that the movement that occurs in our artwork has these shiny silver discs hanging every which way, all different directions. So they are reflecting their surroundings. So whatever colors are in the room are being reflected in the piece. And it's not like a mirror reflection. It's sort of like a muted, diffused reflection with an undertone of gray, because it's really gray aluminum, which is the color of the aluminum. It's silvery gray. So to me, it's like this beautiful, like undulating gray, blue, green, reflective. And like if you're standing in front of it and you were wearing a red shirt, you would see your own reflection, but only like a scattered reflection of the red in your shirt. No. So for me, it's a whole different experience. It's still interactive. Our art is interactive. You can walk up to it and you can blow on it, and you're the one that created the movement. But in the case of the blank discs, it's like the interaction is more like with the solid environment around the piece, not necessarily the air motion, although it has that too. But
and with those, they were painted white, so whatever color was on the opposite side of the can, like if it was a Coke can, you could, if you stand just right, you could see that red reflecting off the white.
Off the white
too.
Background of the
board,
yeah.
So that was an interesting.
Yeah. So when we did that, it's like there's all these new things happening. That we didn't anticipate. And I think, and this is why it's so challenging now with the pandemic, of course, to sell our art. We're not selling art in person at all. It's all online. And it's it's just harder to describe it and present it. And, we try our best to describe it with words and with photos and videos
but
and
you need to see
animations. So I think maybe there could be like a disconnect maybe between like what we are seeing here in our studio when we're looking at our art versus what we're able to present to people on the internet looking at our art.
Yeah.
But surprisingly, we have been successful, I think, transitioning from art festival artists to online sales.
Yeah.
I think we're getting better at it, and we're learning what we need to do.
Yeah.
So it's working. So
is that a fun challenge for you guys?
I would say it's fun when you accomplish the goal of like being able to, like, I had to learn like how to photograph the art, which we never really photographed it much before. We just took it to the art festival.
Right.
Why photograph? How to photograph it, how to make a video, how to write copy. I'm still struggling with that. I'm learning.
Yeah.
How to have a website that's just user friendly, and that clearly states the price and how much the shipping will cost, and can you ship it here and there, and how big is the box going to be. Like, so many details that go into like just being able to get convince someone to click buy and then to get it to them.
Yeah.
It's not as straightforward as you would think. So we're becoming like artists that are in business, and now we're also like a shipping business. So we have like packing materials everywhere, cardboard boxes, bubble wrap. And then of course I'm struggling with, I want to be able to ship these in the most environmentally friendly possible way. And it's so hard to figure out what that is because they're big and they're heavy and we have to protect them. Like, I don't want to use plastic in our packaging, but sometimes we have to. So I'm trying to like come to terms with that and learn as much as I can about shipping and like what can we afford to do and what is available to us, and hopefully it gets there in one piece and everybody's happy. And then the fear of like somebody buying a piece of art on our website who's never seen it in person, and they receive it, and are they going to like it? Is it what they thought it would be? And so far everybody seems satisfied. So I don't know if we're lucky or we just haven't crossed that bridge yet of
nobody's gotten in and said, what, this isn't a blue bonnet.
Now we have to also be like, our customer service is different. I mean, before when we were at art festivals, there's a certain type of customer service that you present in person versus now we're an internet business, so that's a little bit different.
And we also, I think the hard part about selling online is that we're always there. In an art festival, we're just here for the weekend, and if you don't get this piece right now, you're not gonna, you don't have, you got to wait till next year.
It's like a different sense of urgency.
Yes, but now it's how do you create that sense of urgency when someone's perusing your website from their phone in bed on a Tuesday? It's just, there's no urgency. So I don't know how to do it yet. So I guess we'll have to figure that out.
That's the next part. But that's kind of exciting too.
It is, because we're learning.
Because it's an art in itself that to figure that kind of thing out. Stuff.
I know when I buy stuff like that, I'm not buying the art so much as I am the artist, right? Like for me, it's all about you guys. I don't know. I created what I felt like was a connection with you guys, and I wanted to get a physical representation of that. And so I see how that could be, really difficult. Like on your site, you were saying, how do you convey that just with the description on a picture of, the mosaic arrow or something like that, when I know you guys have gone to great pains, because like in your, about us section, you've got it really fleshed out. And I think that's really clever. And because you try and inject some of, of you into it as best you can, but it's all just, text on a page that's kind of hard to convey.
Which took a very long time.
It took a long time to write our bio and statement and everything. I think that on top of that, it's like we are not professionals in that realm, and we haven't hired anybody. And of course, that's always an option, but we're such like do-it-yourselfers that it's really hard to like kind of break away.
If we do it wrong, we want to, or at least we did it.
Yeah, that's true. But we're not like, I don't know, web designers. We're not salespeople. We're not copywriters.
Yeah, I took
We're
a web class.
Not photographers. Well, yes, you did.
Many years
20
ago.
years ago, yeah. So it's like we get to be artists like 20% of the time, and the other 80% of the time we are doing all these other things that we're just sort of like trying to be a jack of all trades when it comes to like everything else that has to be done, including bookkeeping and taxes and presenting ourselves, making sure that we're present on social media. And that's so challenging because personally I find it really hard to remember to take a photo of something and share it on Instagram. So many times when it's just like the moment passes and it's like, oh, that would have been a good Instagram post.
We're just like, box it up, ship it.
Like, oh wow.
We're like, wait, that was we haven't made one of those yet.
Yeah.
You should have took a picture
we're starting to build like a little bit of momentum on Instagram, and we'll get,
which we weren't really ever trying to do.
No, but now we're starting,
because we never really saw a need for any social media.
No, we never did before in the past. But now that we're just here,
we're sitting in your street, we're like, come visit us.
Yeah, but now we're just here and we're isolated. It's completely different. So we have to think about those things, and it's not in our nature to really put what we're doing on social media.
Because thousands of people aren't walking in front of us, every weekend now. So.
Yeah. But if you duplicate those experiences online, right? Like if you do some Instagram stories, some videos of you guys talking about your art, showing your art, the process, all that stuff, then it's not thousands, now it's millions of people that can walk by your booth.
Yeah, we need to just try to make it a little bit
more.
We
have been trying.
Second nature. It's just not there yet. It's just. So for some people, it's really second nature to put everything out there.
Document
for us,
everything.
I'm just like, well, this is kind of private, isn't it? Maybe we can show up private. But I guess that's just our age speaking. I don't know. I mean, a younger person might not think twice about it.
Yeah. Well, because I follow several people, and I go click on their, their live thing or whatever, and like, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, should I be doing that? You know what I mean? Like I sit here and work. Should I have a camera on me at all times? Like, I could be, I don't know.
Okay.
So I could, I don't know, be whining about something while I'm working.
Yeah.
It might be entertaining. I don't know.
Your 2 cents about whatever.
My 50 cents.
Well, it's like in podcasting. There's this old saying that people find you for the content, but they stay for the characters. Right, it's like they find you based on what you're doing, but then they fall in love with your style, your voice, whatever happens to be, and they connect with you. So you could just be, complaining about the lack of, lemon meringue pie in the house, and somebody will connect with you.
Yeah, you're right. There's somebody out there who's like that. That's a man after my own heart.
There you go.
Let's hear more about.
Then I'll get too many followers, and then all these lemon meringue pies will show up.
So you're just worried you're going to become an influencer too fast. The fame will get to your head. It's a worry for all of us. Man, that's crazy.
No, I don't want to get that big.
So something else that kind of popped in my head earlier is you were talking about how you grew up doing construction and stuff like that. You know how to build houses and things like that. And
hammer.
Yeah, man. Like so having an uncle, like, because I grew up mostly over there because I had like a single mom working 2 jobs, all that stuff. So I would get I'd end up over there so that I wouldn't get into trouble or whatever. So I ended up just doing a lot of work with him and stuff. And he wasn't the kind of guy that would foster creativity through art and things like, what I mean? It's like whenever you look at those guys, I've seen him build some amazing stuff all out of his head. Like he can see the 3D object in his head and all the cuts he needs to make without having a drawing. And to me, that is like an amazing artistic skill, right? The ability to do that. Or he could look at a set of drawings and he knows what that house looks like. To me, it didn't look like anything until the sheetrock was on the walls. Like I couldn't do that. But they don't always, but he's not the kind of guy that would encourage you to say, yeah, that's a really good drawing, you should do that. Or that's a good painting. So I'm curious, like, how does your family feel about like the art that you make and do? And like, what's that like from, kind of that tough perspective.
Yeah, well, like, how did it go? I mean, I know that your family is
I
definitely
know.
supportive. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, I know. Yeah, they're supportive, because I guess they bought some of the pieces.
They've bought pieces,
early
yes.
on. But I think my dad was really big on the architecture, because he was always drawing to figure out some weird, where roofs were coming into
Right.
each other and stuff. So he was always drawing, drafting, and just with rulers and paper and things like that, trying to figure out something that the drawings didn't say. So I think he appreciated that part of it. He liked when I started making models, architectural models. He really loved that idea, because for him, he saw, oh, that's a great way to figure out this thing that I need to figure out.
Detail or condition of the construction.
Yeah, and then I think the first time that I ever put like paint down to something, I painted my room, and I didn't have enough paint to paint the whole room a color. Like, I had all this leftover, like, cans of paint that were old, and so I grabbed all these paint cans, and I just started dipping the brush in one and painting, and then dipping the brush in another color and just continuing, and then the other color, and I went through and I covered the whole room. And I think he's never like said like, oh man, I really like what you're doing or whatever, but I think he really liked how that looked. So I think that was his way of saying,
like, it's okay
that I did something that was all right.
Yeah.
Even though it wasn't
construction. So maybe that was like a clue early on with your family, like when you were living at home, that this might be what you're going to end up doing with your life.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But I mean, they're very accepting bunch of people. And my mom always drew. She would always draw horses and stuff like that. And my older sister always drew. I don't know about the two little sisters, but
they're creative too.
Yeah, they do something. So drawing in my house and coloring and stuff was always there. I never did much of it when I was younger. I was always I was on a skateboard in front of the house and on the street most of the time. But I think that they've been all right with it. Yeah. I think now they're like, oh, okay, this is what he's doing.
Well, yeah, I think similar with my family. Like, there's always been like this little like undercurrent of like doubt regarding what we do, coming from family members, like, maybe what you're doing is sort of just this fun adventure and it's not really a career. Not that anybody has specifically said that, but sometimes you just get that drift,
But they're always like, oh, how are you going to retire? What are you going to do about all that kind of stuff?
But now, I mean, even kind of recently, I know my brother asked me, by the way, how do you describe yourself? And I said, I don't know, an artist, a professional artist. And he said, oh, okay, good. Because, somebody was asking me about you and your art, and I referred to you as a career artist. Is that okay? And I said, yeah, of course, that's okay. So hearing from, a family member, my brother, that he perceived us as career artists, I felt like, oh, okay, finally, like, it's not like sometimes you hear of people describing their self-employed artist friend and really
that sad sack of shit.
Yeah, you have there's this sort of like stereotype that's hard.
They're like, we don't talk to that person.
That's sort of hard to like break away from, I guess, that artists aren't just some leech on society.
Yeah,
that
some
are
drunken
just,
loser complaining about not selling art.
Yeah, so
we've been there though.
When we are called or told or described as being professional artists, it's really gratifying, and it feels really like we're very much accepted as this is the choice we've made with our lives and this is what we're doing. With that said, when I left the field of architecture, I did get a little bit of, questions from family members like, why are you doing this? You're so close to being licensed. I was in the middle of taking my licensing exams. I had started a business, a design business. So I think
Was that Design House?
Yeah, Design House. Yeah, the thing that happened in my mind was that I was not enjoying any of it.
Yeah.
And it was so hard because I was good at it, you know?
Yeah.
And like I had gotten very good at design. I was a good designer, really good with AutoCAD.
Yeah.
I could create an entire set of construction documents all by myself.
Were you taught AutoCAD?
I taught AutoCAD. So I taught structures one semester as well.
Well, also at the same time, we knew all these older architects who just seemed miserable.
Yeah, I guess I was.
And you just know that they're just gonna die right there on their drafting table. Yeah, like. And so, like, do you want that life?
I started questioning myself. Is this what I want to do? And I think that I was part of like. There's a way of thinking about choosing a career, which I think earlier generations would sort of. How do I preface this? It's not that you shouldn't choose a career and stick with it your entire life. If you want to, you should. But I think that I was kind of raised with that assumption that you pick a career, you go to university, get your qualifications, and that is what you do until you retire. And I think I had to sort of make this decision, like, am I that type of person? Am I going to work behind a desk for 30 years? As an architect, and as much as I enjoy design and I'm good at it, my favorite thing being residential, I thought, I think that I've taken this as far as I want to take it. I know how to design, and I can apply this to anything in my life. It doesn't have to be just buildings. I have a sensibility that I've learned, and it's important that I learn that and I can apply it. But I don't see myself doing this for the rest of my life. So why am I doing this? I was torturing myself trying to get through the 9 exams to become a licensed architect. That was taking me about 2 years, I guess, of study. And I finally just said, no, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to do this anymore. I want to make art. It's what I want to do. And so I did. And I never looked back. But I do think that people I know in the field and maybe family members were maybe a little disappointed and kind of questioning, like, why would somebody come this far and then quit? And to me, it wasn't quitting. It was like moving on. Like I want to do something that makes me happy. And so now I am. And I don't even know if I will do this for the rest of my life. I feel like I probably will. But if you were to ask me the same question in a year or 5 years, I have no idea. I might be a farmer. I don't know.
Yeah. Something. I think in my family, I think everybody saw it coming. Yeah. But like, I feel like my mom was more, I don't know, but she was more about the fact that we didn't have any kids. I think that was more alarming.
Like
to
she was
her.
concerned.
Like, yeah. But I don't think work-wise. I don't think she was.
No.
She wasn't ever. Like why are you being an artist?
Why aren't you making grandbabies?
Yeah. Why didn't you go off and be a doctor or something?
Yeah. But she didn't question.
But I think after, like when we got married and stuff, I think she naturally thought a baby coming. Yeah. But then because they love kids.
Yeah.
And I think that was the only hang up that she had about.
Well, she's over it.
Yeah, she's over it.
I know, trying to look through my own eyeballs at so I have a couple of kids, and one of them's pretty creative, and so I think to myself, it'd be cool if they went into like something creative like that. But then there's this thing that it's not disappointment, it's fear. Like, would they be okay? Like, would they be able to feed themselves? Are they going to have everything they need? And it's just like, I just want them to flourish and be happy and healthy. Yeah. And so I think, at least for me, like that's like when I look at it, like what happens if my kid wants to be an artist? That's like the thing that like scares me, it's like, I just don't want the world to crush them. Cause it's like, I feel like, artists make art for people to enjoy it. And if you put it out there and somebody, 100 people can say they love it, and then one person says it's the worst thing they've ever seen. And for me, whenever I do something like that, I only remember that one person that said they hated it. Like I can't not get that voice out of my head.
Oh yeah. That's definitely like an element of what we do that I don't like. I want everyone to love everything we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can understand your fear. And my parents, your parents, they
Yeah.
probably had those fears when we decided to buy a van, quit our day jobs, and who knows what's going to happen to us. I know that one time my mom said,
Yeah.
like, my mom was expecting us to come and visit, and I think we got the days wrong. So the day she thought we were going to come and visit, we were actually coming the next day, right? And so and she called late at night. Where are you guys? Where are you? Did you crash? Are you upside down in a ditch somewhere? What's happening? And I think that I made me realize that maybe that was her. Like, she always had that kind of fear in the back of her mind while we're out on the road. Sometimes
she was really worried that we were gonna, I don't know, get hit by a train as we're crossing the railroad tracks, or something like that.
But I think that from a parent's point of view, like I can definitely understand the fear, and it's probably really true. Like the fear is, I mean, the risk is there all the time that we take, that something is going to happen, or that we're just not going to make enough money to survive. And I think that it's weird because you have monthly bills you got to pay, and we somehow, despite our ups and downs, the swings of art sales and the economy and the season, we still somehow manage to do it. And I think that that's just chalk that up to being realistic about everything, and taking the time to learn how to have a budget, basic things, about life, that like everybody needs to learn. And so, like, if you can,
you got to save it when you make it. So
we save our money when we make a lot of
ride
it.
the storm.
And then when we don't, we have, we can get through.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're a parent wanting to encourage your creative child to go into a creative field, I think maybe the best thing you can do for them is to teach them a lot other stuff about life that has to exist.
Business.
The business.
The business. Go. Because everybody's all like, "Oh, we'll go to art school." I was like, "Why do you want to go to art school? You already make art."
Yeah, go to
business school so you can learn what to do after you're selling that art.
Yeah, that's what I would recommend too.
Yeah.
Or maybe business with a side of art or something.
Or so just do it as a hobby until you can open up a storefront and know how to pay keep your lights on.
Because I think that's a downfall for a lot of artists, is that they are so deep in the creative elements of being an artist, and that it's just so important to exercise your creativity, to put it out there. I think that they don't place any importance on the other things that, to be able to do it independently and not have like a day job to support yourself, like
which is great too,
like just being able to keep a budget and to figure out like how to make ends meet despite what happens, because you could have like
or to pay your taxes on time,
or to learn about paying taxes,
especially when you're traveling all over the place. Every state is different.
I know. I mean, I filed income taxes in 10 states one year. I mean, that was just a nightmare. And we
and every year afterwards they want their money, and you're like, we haven't gone there.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you go to one state once, and then every year after that, you get a bill in the mail or a notice, or just sales tax, having to pay sales tax in every single municipality that we've sold art in. Like I don't know how we did it. Like, we just learned along the way, but it would be a really great skill to have known all that stuff in advance.
Well, I mean, too, you guys, I guess a lot of artists are on their own, but you guys, I mean, it's hannanandnemo.com. It's not Hannah Art or Nemo Art. It's like you guys really are a team, so you got each other to lean on.
Yes. So we can definitely, you always have someone to listen. And
so you got to be the parent. That's the other part, is for your kids.
What?
Right. He has to, for his kids, he has to be that other partner, that other half.
Oh, man. Well, I've consumed a lot of your time, but I had one question left I wanted to ask you guys. And on your website, so obviously there's so many questions on here that we didn't get to, but I had such a good time talking to you guys. But one of the things you put on there, because you said you're trying to like flesh things out and be as authentic as you can be on there, just in text. One thing was Nemo's mantra. He had 2 entries in there. One of them was eat dessert first, and obviously that came up early in the previous conversation. But the other one, it says always speak the truth. What is that about?
I just say, tell it like it is. If something bothers me, I say what bothers me. If somebody's doing something I don't like, I speak up. If
Never sugarcoats anything.
Yeah, if somebody's like, what do you think of this or whatever, I tell them what I think of it. I don't tell them what they want, which is kind of bad for you. I think that's the only problem too. Like if you want an answer from me and you know what you want me to say, and I rarely say that thing because I'm going to be truthful.
Yeah.
And like,
well, that's going to be forever. Like, the issue between men and women, I guess. I in my nature, I want the sugar-coated answer, or I want to hear what I want to hear. And for you, always speak the truth. You're just gonna, no matter what, you're gonna say
exactly what
you're thinking. And
most of the time without thinking about it either.
Yeah.
So it pops in and then it just comes right out of your mouth.
I think that it's really good skill to have, and I think that it makes you really, he can really see. You really see other people. I think because of this, somehow he's really able to get to the root of another person without knowing them for very long. Even it's not in a judgmental sort of way, but
and reading them.
He reads people well.
Yeah.
And I think that it kind of is somehow related to that. Just getting to the bottom of it. Just what is this about? I don't know if I'm being clear, but it's a useful trait. Not useful. It's a positive trait, although sometimes it can be interpreted as negative.
I think it can be polarizing, right?
Yeah.
You either love that blunt honesty or it's not for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And for most people it's not for them.
I love it. Because I do this thing where I don't need everybody to like me. I just don't want everybody to hate me. So it's this weird place I find myself. So I am I craft what I say, sometimes. Yeah. So there's sometimes a little bit of a hitch between it hitting my brain and coming out of my mouth so that I can say it in the right way. I usually get my point across and say it the exact same thing. I'll just change the words I use sometimes, and that makes all the difference. Something I learned is it makes sense in my head, right? Like I've painted this picture in my head and I use the words I know how to convey that over, but that doesn't mean when you paint that picture it's going to be the exact same thing, right? So stuff gets misinterpreted, and I like it when I'm talking. Blunt people are some of my favorite people. My uncle that I grew up with in construction, the closest thing I had to a dad growing up, and man, that dude would tell you like it is, and he would tell his subs like it was in 4-letter words at the top of his lungs all the time. You hear that in construction a lot, so I think that's an awesome skill to have. But then you've got somebody to help soften it a little bit,
filter it, yeah,
or apologize for it.
Apologize. Is what's really meant to say? Okay, well, let me see if I can smooth things over. It's okay, because I am quite the opposite, and sometimes I get myself into a situation where I'm saying things I don't mean at all just to be nice to everybody, and that's not beneficial either. So.
Well, and I never walk away from a conversation thinking, "Oh man, I should have said this," or I should have.
I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I say it. I try to say it in like a jokingly way, so it's kind of like, oh well, maybe he was saying a joke, or because I talk a lot of random crap too, like throughout the day, like I'm just
because you're a joker,
like random stuff, trying to make myself laugh half the time, and sometimes it's offensive, and sometimes people don't agree, but who cares?
He makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I get your humor most of the time. Yeah.
Do you find yourself having to tell like increasingly bizarre jokes to make her laugh? Like she gets too used to the normal stuff? Because that's what I do with my wife. Like I got to say some crazy stuff sometimes.
I don't know. I don't think I do.
I think you do, but I think that he's more like throwing spaghetti at a wall, is what I say.
Yeah,
He's like throwing spaghetti at a wall and seeing if it sticks, you know?
Yeah. Oh, because
So
I'll go on a rant,
I feel
just
like
talking and talking and talking, and like she won't even acknowledge anything that I'm saying for a while until I say something that's actually
really
funny,
funny, and then I laugh a lot.
yeah. So then I write that down.
Yeah.
You're building your set. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
I
go.
know. And sometimes I tell him, maybe you should do stand up, and I think you have some good ones. Not everything. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, because I've gotten you laughing, and you're
Yeah.
like really laughing, and I'm just like, was that funny? Like, what? Because the thing I said before that I thought was funny.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, guys, I want to respect your time. We've hit or a little bit over what we had scheduled, so I really appreciate it. First thing I want to do is I want you guys to tell me what's the best way you'd like people out on the internet to interact with you. What's your socials, your website, anything you want people to check out?
So probably a good place, first of all, to see what our art looks like is hannanandnemo.com, and that's Hannah and then okay, I'll spell it out. HANNAHANDENEMO.com. That's our website. And then we kind of favor Instagram these days, and that is at Hannah and Nemo, our Instagram handle. And that's a good place to communicate with us, message us. And of course, you can just, peruse our website. You'll see a link on our website for Uncommon Goods. Uncommon Goods is a company that represents us and sells our artwork. So you'll find a different selection of artwork with Uncommon Goods, plus all the other stuff they sell, which we're really proud of that, to be exclusive artists on in the Uncommon Goods stable. So really, that's it. Just those two places would be the best ways to see what we do and to say hello.
Gotcha. And you guys do, so like on the website, you have stuff that we can click and buy now, but you guys do some bespoke stuff too, right? So if somebody has like a design in mind.
You're gonna find, yeah, you can see we have a custom section, which most often we get requests for custom sizes.
Yeah.
So we sort of just put that out there, all these various sizes. But if you have an idea of something, we don't necessarily take on any kind of commission. It has to kind of be within our vocal, our voice, our artistic voice, what we comfortable. But you can send us a message, and if you have an idea, let us know what it is, and we can respond and figure something out. And we'd be happy to.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I want to say right here at the end, you guys, I don't know, there was just something, I think something about Nemo, just your bluntness, your honesty that really drew me in. And Hannah, you're just so sweet and engaging. Just you guys as humans, and to see you guys interact together, I mean, it's awesome, and I loved it. And so
thank you.
I hope for you guys that, the art stuff, like being able to actually go to shows will happen again, because to me, I bought you guys. Like I didn't buy art. I bought you guys, and I loved it. And I love the positivity you guys are putting out there, putting beautiful stuff in the world. I love that I can live vicariously through you, right? That you could just go around and put beautiful things in the world. I mean, Jesus, I mean,
who does that?
We all want to do that. There's just not all of us are brave enough, to do that. And I envy the adventures you guys have and will have. And I love to see the strength of your relationship, of everything you guys have been through. So you're definitely inspiring. You may not think of it yourself, but very inspirational. So thank you guys for coming in.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for reaching out. And we enjoyed your podcast, and we've never done a podcast like this before. So this is really interesting. I like it, and looking forward to listening to the rest of your guests.
For sure.
In your seasons.
Well, hopefully somebody listening is, has an even bigger podcast that can amplify your voice even bigger. So because you guys are a lot of fun. I guess any questions or comments for you guys, please visit them on their social, support these artists, and we'll see you guys next time.
All right.
And now I click stop on all the things.